Hey guys, so I'm about to leave to walk to the theater to do Crazy-Free, which I'm in Calgary at Theatre Calgary, and I thought I'd do a get ready with me video in case you guys were interested in seeing how I do my show makeup.
My name is Bella Zangler. Thank you for coming to see our show.
Bobby, it is time you gave up all this dancing nonsense and settled down.
If we don't pay them a ton of money by the end of this month, they're gonna take our theater lock, stock, and barrel.
I just want to dance. I don't care about money.
You honestly think that people are gonna pay good money to see a bunch of singing numbskulls?
Snap, that bass, snap. Just imagine this theater giving it a whole new life.
So I'm just popping a generous amount of Kat Von D Lock It Foundation in Light 46 on my hand, and then I usually just use my finger and start applying it all over my face. My face is really smooth from moisturizing it with the almond oil, which I've let set for quite a few minutes, at least 15-20 minutes usually, so that it's not too slippery to apply the foundation. But I find, because I'm doing this show in Alberta and I'm originally from Ontario, the dryness is pretty extreme and my skin dries out really easily here in a way that it normally doesn't. So if I don't apply a pretty heavy moisturizer to my skin before I apply all my makeup and powder, my skin gets super scaly and it's really gross. You can also do this with a brush, but I prefer just using my clean fingers. Then the warmth of my hands help to blend the makeup out, and it just feels like it's faster and easier. And since I'm doing full show makeup every single day, I'll do anything to make it faster. And as you guys might be able to see, my skin is not doing amazingly right now. I'm definitely breaking out. This always happens to me when I'm in show because I have to put so much makeup on, and once I have all my makeup on, I then dance in it and sweat for 2.5 hours. And some days I even have to do a second show that day, so I put more makeup on my face, do another 2.5-hour show, and then can only take it off late at night after having continually reapplied makeup on top of sweaty skin over and over again. And I find my skin is quite sensitive to having anything on it when it's sweating. It's to be expected. This is what happens every time I do a show. So I just kind of deal with it. I try to take care of it the best I can. And then once the show is over, I kind of go on a makeup detox and try to give my skin the chance to breathe. Now I'm gonna use my vegan Whistler Lips lip balm just to moisturize my lips. Again, it's that Alberta dryness. My lips get really, really dry, and I'm using a matte, relatively thick lipstick for the show so that it will stay on throughout the whole thing of drinking water between every single scene, essentially. And if I don't heavily moisturize my lips beforehand, then my lips will be really dry by halfway through the show and it gets pretty uncomfortable. I'm gonna let my foundation set a little bit while I work on starting my brows. So I just use a little spoolie to brush my brows up. And then I go in with an angled brush and my e.l.f. Mad for Matte palette. I have a review of this palette on my blog if you guys are interested. It's really affordable, vegan, cruelty-free, and has every single color that I could need to do my show makeup. So I started with this light brown to do my brows. That's the color I use for my brows on a day-to-day basis. And I use it to start off the shape of my brows before I go in to darken them for the stage. In the show, my wig is sort of a strawberry blonde color. It's a little bit lighter than my natural hair color with blonde highlights throughout. So normally, if that was, you know, just day to day, I would do my brows in the same shade and keep them nice and light. But because you're on stage, you want to darken up all those features. So I will be darkening up my brows. Now that my foundation has had some time to set, I'm going to go in with concealer. I've been mixing this Cover FX concealer in N Light and this Kat Von D concealer in Light 18 together. And all I do is pop a little bit of each on my hands side by side and then mix them together. And then I just apply it over any imperfections and then also in any areas I want to lighten up, like under my eyes, a little bit around my nose, and on my eyelids. And once I've given it a little bit of a moment, I just start lightly tapping it out. To blend it without wiping it away. So now that my concealer's had a little bit of a chance to sink in, I'm gonna start in with my bronzer and blush. For bronzer, I'm using Too Faced Soleil bronzer, and I'll just be applying it in the hollows of my cheeks. And this will help to give my face dimension under the really bright stage lights. I also apply a little bit of this on my temples and my eyelids, on either side of my nose, on the tip of my nose, and along my jawline. I also blend it down my neck really lightly, just with the excess that's on the brush. Next, I'm grabbing my Too Faced Love Flush blush in Your Love is King, and I'm just applying it to the apples of my cheeks and blending up towards my temples. Now I'm just going to use my Too Faced Primed and Poreless Pressed Powder to just blend that out using my Eco Tools Kabuki brush. And I'm applying a little bit all over my face just to help set the foundation and concealer, and I'm also using it to blend the edges of the blush and the bronzer. Now I'm gonna get started on my eyes. I'm just gonna use the lightest shade in my Mad for Matte palette, and I'll apply that all over my lid. Next, I'm going to grab a blending brush and that third color, the one I used for my brows, to start giving my crease a little bit of dimension. I'm gonna go really, really light. Then I'm gonna start building up the color. Once that's done, it's time to really start packing on the eyeshadow. I usually, for time's sake, go right in with the dark color, the darkest brown in the palette, this one right here, and I just use a dome brush to start applying it to the outer quarter or third of my eye. I guess it's probably the outer quarter, and also to the crease. And it's gonna look really ridiculous at the start until I blend it out. But starting with a lot of dark color means that I can get a full dramatic eye look quickly. And again, if you're doing this for like a night out or something and you have the time, then you can build it up slowly. But when you have to do the same makeup over and over and over and over again, it's just no fun to do that. And then I usually take my blending brush just completely free of any color and I start blending it in the crease. I also usually use my finger just to clean up the top a little bit if I find that blending it is bringing the color up a little higher than I'd like. Also for the sides of my eye. So at this point I'm going to add a little bit more of that dark brown, again in that outer quarter. This I'm barely going to have to blend out. I'm just applying it to get even more depth of color there. And again, I'm going to use my blending brush just to blend it a little tiny bit. I'm going to grab my angled brush again that I used for my brows, go back into that dark brown, and I'm going to apply it to my lower lash line, about 1/3 to halfway across. I also usually like to drag that color up so that that line matches the shadow on my top lid, and this will be covered by the liquid liner, so it really doesn't matter what it looks like, but I usually do this step. So at this point I usually go in with my blending brush and a little bit of the lighter shadow we used on the lid just to clean up the edges. Now that we've used the angled brush for the lower lash line, I'm actually just going to keep that really dark brown on it, and I'm going to start darkening up my brows, just applying the color in short strokes so that it looks more like hairs. When that color runs out, I like to go in with these two colors, with sort of medium reddish brown and the slightly darker brown, to again add more depth and dimension to my brows, which are going to be pretty darn dramatic. And my brows do look super dark. They will look lighter once I powder them. But when you're doing a big musical theater show, there's lots of comedy. Where your eyebrows are is really important for the audience in the second balcony, being able to understand your emotions, your facial expressions. So you don't want eyebrows that they can't read from 2 stories up. So I'm going to go in again with that trusted spoolie and brush out my brows again. I'm also going to grab a little bit of my powder and lightly powder them down, which will lighten them a little bit. Now I'm going to draw on my liquid liner. I'm using an e.l.f. liquid liner in Blackest Black. It's basically a giant felt tip pen. And I'm going to draw on my liner all the way along my upper lash line. It's okay if it's a little bit messy because we are going to be applying false lashes on top and thickening the line. I do try to make it relatively thick before I even apply the lashes so that it's a little bit easier to touch up later. And then I'm going to do a little wing, and I usually follow that line from my lower lashes and drag it in. And it's a thicker line than I would do again normally, but we really want that to read from far back. Now that my liner is dry, I'm going to apply my false lashes. These are the Boudoir lashes from House of Lashes, and I just trimmed them to fit my eye. I'm going to use my Duo Lash Adhesive in Clear White to apply them, and I just put a little bit of lash glue along the whole band. You don't want to put too much because then it takes a while for it to get tacky and it can slide around, but you do need to get enough that they will stay throughout the whole show. And I find I can do a pretty small amount along the whole band, but I do want to get a little bit extra on the inner corner and on the outer corner to make sure that those edges stay locked down. Once I have a thin band of glue on there, I'm just going to let it dry up, get tacky for probably a full minute before I start applying it to my eye. Once the minute's up, you're going to apply it to your eye. False eyelashes are the bane of my existence and I hate them, but what are you going to do? So usually what I start by doing is taking the lashes, being careful not to touch the glue on both sides, and curving it, almost touching the two ends. That way the lash has a bit more curve and it's easier to get the edges to stick to my eye when I put it on. So I'll do that right before I apply it, and then take it in the center and try to pop it on where I want it on that first go round. So I pop it in there, trying to line the outside edge with the outer edge of my eye, and then the inside edge usually just on the inside of where my pupil sits when I'm looking forward. I find that's the most flattering for me, so I cut my lashes to be that size. Lashes that come in further I think look unnatural and also get in my eye and are annoying. So I'll just press it in a little bit. I try to also set it so that it's sitting pretty high up so that you can really see the lashes from the front and also get a bit of an impression of them from a high angle looking down. Once I feel like they're sat in the right spot and they're stuck down all the way along, I will let them dry and not touch it and go on to the other lash, and then I can do some fix-ups once it's fully dry. So I'm gonna do exactly the same thing with the other lash, and then I'll be back. Okay, so once I put my other lash on, I go back in with my black liquid liner and just touch up any areas over the lash that you can see the glue. Next thing I do is apply a little bit of mascara because my lashes are quite light, so even though from far away the audience wouldn't really see it, it just kind of looks weird to me. So I've been using the Tarte Lights Camera Lashes mascara, and I just take off all of the excess so that there's really not a lot of mascara on the brush. And then I just apply it lightly to my lashes, and it darkens my lashes and then also blends my lashes with the false lashes. Now for lipstick, I'm using the Mayron Lip Cream in Big Apple and a lipstick brush. So that's it for the makeup. I'm heading off to the theater now. It takes me about 25 minutes to walk there, so I gotta get going. When I get there, I'm going to part my hair down the middle and do 2 French braids. My hair is very long. If you're not familiar with me and my channel, you might not know that. So instead of doing pin curls, which is what people normally do under wigs, I do 2 big braids, wrap them on my head a couple times, pin them really securely. I then put my microphone cord over my head, pin it to my braids, tape it down, put a wig cap on, and then I get my wig put on. I hope you guys found this video interesting. If you want to hear anything more about this part of my life, if you want to see a daily stretching routine or what I eat in a day when I'm performing 1 or 2 shows in a day, if you want to hear more about how I got into this, my story, or just what the industry is like, feel free to leave requests in the comments below and I'll definitely get to them. But for now, I'm off to the theater and I'll see you guys really soon in my next video. Bye!